In the shadow of Olympus and Valhalla lies a world almost forgotten, the mythos of the Celts. No golden temples, no carved commandments, just wind through ancient oaks, mist curling around standing stones, and stories passed by firelight from mouth to mouth. Celtic mythology doesn't shout, it whispers. It is not a pantheon of perfect gods sitting high above mankind. It is a realm where gods walk with mortals, make mistakes, bleed, love, and vanish into fog. The line between human and divine was thin. Sometimes it disappeared altogether. In this world, magic wasn't separate from life, it was life. But these tales have been buried by empire, by religion, by time. Unlike Greek myths, which were written in marble, or Norse sagas carved into runestones, the Celtic tradition lived in the air. When the Druids fell, much of it was lost, or so it seemed. Yet fragments remain. In festivals we still celebrate without knowing why, in fairy tales that echo with older meanings, in names whispered in forests, by rivers, or in dreams we don't fully understand. This is not just mythology. It's a language, a system of thought, a way of remembering who we are. So today we follow the old paths once more. We walk with gods, we face the monsters, we hold the relics, and we ask, what truths did the Celts try to preserve? Not in stone, but in story. The gods of the Celtic world weren't distant, flawless beings watching from ivory towers. They were present, messy, passionate, powerful, and painfully human. They reflected not perfection, but truth. And in doing so, they became something even more divine. At the heart of this pantheon stood the Dagda, known as the good god, though his title barely scratches the surface. He was a father, a warrior, a druid, and a god of abundance. He wielded a club that could kill with one end and restore life with the other, a cauldron that never ran dry, a harp that changed the seasons when played. But the Dagda was also flawed. He lusted, he blundered, he failed, and yet he endured. He is the Celtic embodiment of balance, not holy purity, but wholeness. Then comes Lug, the Shining One. Lug wasn't just good at everything, he was everything. Warrior, poet, craftsman, sorcerer, strategist. He earned his place among the Tuatha not by birthright, but by merit. He defeated Balor, his monstrous grandfather, fulfilling a prophecy and becoming a symbol of youthful brilliance, overcoming ancient tyranny. Yet even Lug's triumph carried sorrow. His son would later fall in battle, a reminder that no victory is eternal. In sharp contrast, we find the Morrigan, the Phantom Queen. She is fate, war, transformation. Often feared, often misunderstood, she appears as a raven on the battlefield, selecting who will live and who will fall. She is not evil, she is inevitable. The Morrigan does not destroy for pleasure. She reveals the truths people refuse to see. To face her is to face your shadow. And then there is Brigid, the goddess of fire, poetry, healing, and the forge. She embodies renewal, creativity, and compassion. Brigid was so beloved, so enduring, that when Christianity spread, she wasn't erased. She was transformed into a saint. Her flames were never extinguished, they simply changed hands. These gods weren't worshipped because they were flawless, they were revered because they were real. They loved, they fought, they grieved, they ruled not from a pedestal, but from within the heart of the world itself. To follow a Celtic god was to accept contradiction, to honor both joy and sorrow, creation and destruction, light and shadow. Their power wasn't just in what they controlled, it was in what they represented, the complexities of being alive, the chaos of nature, the endless cycle of death and rebirth. In Celtic myth, gods were not saviors, they were companions. They didn't fix the world, they reflected it. And in their myths, we find ourselves not as passive listeners, but as fellow travelers on the path between storm and sun. In most mythologies, monsters are simple: slay the beast, save the village, restore the order. But in Celtic mythology, nothing is ever that clear. Here, monsters are not mindless villains. They are riddles, wrapped in flesh, teachers with claws, horns, and haunted eyes. Start with Balor of the Evil Eye, a towering figure of death and prophecy. He was the king of the Fomorians, a race of chaos and shadow. Balor's eye, when opened, could kill entire armies with a single glance. It was so powerful it had to be sealed shut until needed. But Balor wasn't born evil. He was a curse made flesh, a father trying to escape fate, and like all great tragedies, his attempt to prevent prophecy only fulfilled it. He was slain by his grandson Luge in a battle that felt more like destiny than war. Balor represents inevitability, the darkness we try to avoid, only to meet head-on. Then there's the Banshee, a woman in white, wailing in the night. Her scream is chilling, her presence terrifying, but she doesn't cause death, she foretells it. The Banshee doesn't curse you, she warns you. She is grief in its rawest form, a reminder that death is never truly silent. In her cry we hear the echoes of every goodbye we never got to say. The puka is a shapeshifter, a creature of chaos. It may appear as a dark horse, a goat, or even a man with glowing eyes. Trickster by nature, the puka delights in confusion, but never without reason. It tests your cleverness, your humility, your ability to laugh when fear tempts you to freeze. The puka doesn't punish, it reveals. It strips away arrogance, forcing you to confront your vulnerability. And then come the Selkies, seal people who shed their skins to become human. Their stories are quiet but deeply tragic. Often captured by lonely fishermen or grieving widows, their freedom is stolen, their skins hidden away. But the sea always calls, and when they find their lost skin, they return, leaving love behind for the sake of identity. The Selkie isn't just a tale of magic, it's a story about belonging, about the pain of exile, about the impossible choices between self and sacrifice. Each creature in Celtic lore is a reflection not of enemies to destroy, but truths we try to bury. Fear, loss, fate, regret. To face a Celtic monster is to face a part of yourself you'd rather ignore. They are not there to be slain, they are there to be understood. And if you listen closely, through the howl, the scream, the silence, you may just hear the lesson they were sent to teach. In Celtic mythology, relics were never just objects. They were living echoes, conduits of divine intention, bound by truth, trial, and spirit. Unlike the golden treasures of other mythologies, Celtic relics were not meant to adorn, they were meant to challenge. To wield one was not to gain power, it was to confront your soul. Consider Fragarak, the Answerer. Forged by the gods, this sword cut through more than flesh, it cut through deception. When pointed at your throat, you could speak only the truth. It demanded more than strength, it demanded honor. Warriors feared it, not because of its sharpness, but because it stripped them bare. In a world where words were sacred, Fragarak was divine justice. Then there is the cauldron of the Dagda, a vessel that never emptied, a source of healing, nourishment, and rebirth. But it did not serve all. It refused to feed cowards or liars. It nourished only those who deserved restoration. This was not a gift, it was a test. It asked not, "Are you hungry?" but "Are you worthy?" The spear of Lugh, blinding and unstoppable, was so deadly it had to be kept submerged in water to contain its fury. In battle, it never missed. But the question wasn't, can you wield it? The question was, can you carry its burden? Because with unerring power comes unbearable responsibility. To strike always true is to live with every wound you cause. And then, the stone of fall, silent, cold, waiting. It lay still until the rightful king stepped upon it. Only then would it cry out, piercing the air with truth no one could deny. It didn't respond to lineage, wealth, or ambition. It answered only to spirit. The stone had no voice of its own until it felt destiny beneath its weight. These relics formed part of the 4 treasures of the Tuatha De Danann, beings of divine origin who brought wisdom, sovereignty, and magical order to Ireland. Each treasure was more than a tool, it was a lesson. Freygerak taught truth, the cauldron, virtue, the spear, justice, the stone, legitimacy. But perhaps most haunting of all is this: to hold a Celtic relic was to be held by it. These were not dead objects, they were stories in metal and stone, bound to the land, to morality, to myth. They watched, they waited, and if you reached for one without understanding its cost, it would not answer your call. In the Celtic world, relics did not serve your will. They revealed it, and what they showed could either crown you or undo you. What remains when the gods fall silent and the fires of myth die? Celtic mythology was never meant to rule by dogma. It was meant to exist in the shadows, to live in whispers, to echo where reason fails and wonder begins. These are not just stories of ancient warriors, spirits, or sacred relics. They are rules for living, blueprints for facing the chaos of the world with courage, curiosity, and humility. The Celtic gods taught us that power does not come without consequences, that divinity can be shed, that fate can be loved, feared, or resisted, but never ignored. Their monsters are not nightmares to be slain, they are truths to be faced. They show us our fears, our failures, our forgotten powers. And relics, shards of glowing supernatural energy, are not rewards. They are mirrors. When held in the hand, they do not provide answers. They ask harder questions. Are you ready? Are you honest? Are you worthy of the magic you seek? Even now, Celtic mythology lives on. Not in temples, but in the rhythms of the seasons. Not in priests, but in poets. It lives on in the bonfires lit at Samhain, in stones arranged by long-gone hands, in lullabies passed down from grandmothers who never read a line of the Mabinogion, but still remember. In a world obsessed with progress, Celtic tradition reminds us that old things have value not because they are old, but because they have survived. And persistence is a kind of truth. The gods may have disappeared into the mist, but their voices still resonate, through stories, through memories, through you. Which legends speak to your soul? Which relics would you dare to carry? Share your thoughts in the comments, we read every word. Like this video if you believe that myths are more than fiction. They are mirrors of truth. Subscribe. Subscribe to Whispering Myths and ring the bell so you never miss the next forgotten story still burning beneath the surface of time. Because some stories aren't just told, they're remembered. And tonight, for you, the myth lives on.